Is the state prepared to call its first witness?
We are, Your Honor. Before we call our first witness, Your Honor, we will, by stipulation of the parties, we will move to admit two 911 calls, and those will be what will be submitted into evidence again by agreement of the parties as State Exhibit 100 and State Exhibit 101.
And Ms. Watt, let me just confirm, is that indeed a stipulation?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then at this time, by agreement, States Exhibits 100 and 101 are admitted. Are you wanting to publish these?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see if we can make this happen. Let's see. All right. So just for the record, are you playing 101 first?
That is, for the record, the state will be playing State Exhibit 101 first. The State Exhibit 100 will be played by another witness.
All right.
Let me try to check.
Judge, are all the speakers working okay?
I'm sorry.
The speakers in the courtroom?
Yeah,
The state will call its first witness if the court is ready.
the court is ready.
State calls Deputy Kyle Fangman to the stand.
Yeah. Good morning, Deputy Fangman. Go ahead and have a seat. Sir, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Deputy Fangman, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving these proceedings will be the truth?
I do.
All right. And, sir, for the record, can you please give me your first name and last name and spell them?
First name is Kyle, K-Y-L-E. Last name is Fangman, F as in Frank, A-N-G-M-A-N.
All right. You may proceed.
Mr. Fangman, I'm going to ask you to speak up.
Okay.
Now, you've stated your first and last name for the jury, correct?
Correct.
How are you employed?
I'm a deputy sheriff with Tama County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Tama County Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff?
I've been with Tama since December of 2019.
Can you tell us briefly, or tell the jury briefly, about your education, your training, and your experience to be in the position that you are?
I was hired as a law enforcement officer with Boone County in September of 2009. I graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in December of 2009 and was employed with Boone County until coming to Tama in December of 2019.
Are you a licensed peace officer in the state of Iowa?
I am.
As a deputy sheriff or as a law enforcement officer, what have been some of your duties or responsibilities in those years that you've worked in this field?
I've been assigned to patrol, so I'm a day-to-day patrol deputy, so responding to 911 calls, traffic accidents, traffic enforcement.
Fair to say that you've responded to multiple calls or multiple instances where people need some form of aid in one way or another?
Yes.
On the morning of June 18th, 2021, were you on duty?
Yes.
At some point in the early hours of that morning, were you dispatched to an address on K Avenue in Traer, Iowa?
I was.
Can you tell the jury what address you were dispatched to?
It was in the 1800 block of K Avenue. It was just north of Highway 63.
So is it fair to say 1846 K Avenue,
Correct.
Traer, Iowa?
Yes.
Now, around what time were you dispatched to this address?
It was approximately 4:39 in the morning.
And can you just, for the benefit of this jury being from a different county, from Tama, can you just orient them to what highway, what we're talking about, where this residence is, in proximity to the highway or roadway?
So when I was dispatched, I was in the city limits of Traer, and I went south out of Traer on Highway 63, continued on 63 until the intersection of K and Highway 63. It took me about 3 minutes to arrive on scene.
So when you were dispatched, was another deputy also dispatched with you?
Yes, I was working with Deputy Foster at that time, and he was dispatched as well.
What information did you have or receive prior to arrival to this residence?
Dispatch struggled to get a lot of information to me because of the screaming on the 911 call. It was loud enough you could actually hear it while they were dispatching me through their radios. It sounded like someone had been shot, and there was a lot of blood. They received a second call from a male caller that said he was called to that residence as well.
So as you're driving over or as you're leaving, you can hear the communication or the communication from your radio as you're driving over?
Correct.
And what you hear is just a screaming or some crying female?
Yeah, it's fairly unusual to hear the actual caller in the background. Usually their headsets cancel it out, but not in this case.
You said you took about 3 minutes to get there.
Correct.
And what direction were you driving to get there again?
I left Traer south, and then that road curves instantly and goes west.
It was early hours in the morning. Did you, as you drive there, do you see any vehicle or anything that appears suspicious, either speeding away from these residents?
Not that I recall.
Now, just for the sake of timeline, do you recall the time that you arrived at the residence?
It was approximately 4:42 in the morning.
Permission to approach the witness?
You may. Counsel, these haven't been admitted yet, have they? So, you may. Strawbaker, if you want to move to another chair to maybe to the left of Mr. Ringel somehow, if you want to be able to see.
We proceed.
Whenever you're ready.
By agreement of the parties, we're going to move to admit the one on the extreme left from where I'm sitting. It's 310, 311, and 312 state exhibits.
All right, then, states exhibits
310.
310, 11, and 12 are now admitted.
So are you able to see what's been marked on my far left as 310, middle 311, and my far right as 312?
I can see 310 and 11 fine. 12, I can see the majority of it.
Okay. Now, when looking at 310 and 311, can you help the jury understand what 310 and 311 that they're seeing, the first two, what that would be?
Yep, those are aerial photographs I took with the drone. The one on the far left is of the home and two outbuildings that sit north of the home. The one in the middle is a full overview of the acreage. On the left is Highway 63, and that's running east-west. The road at the bottom of the photo is K Avenue that runs north-south. And then the house is the far left. The two buildings on the right were there at the time of this incident. The large building, kind of right in the middle, was not there at the time this incident happened. Sitting there was building supplies, I assume, to build that building.
Now, when you pull in the driveway, can you describe to the jury what you see?
There was at least two trucks sitting in the driveway. The one furthest away from the house was running with the flashers on, and I parked kind of behind that one.
Did you later determine whose truck that was?
I didn't at the time, no.
Okay. Now, there's two trucks, so do you remember the color of the trucks?
The one closest to where I parked was white. I believe there was a red one in front of that.
Okay. So the white one was the one that appeared to be either running with the flashers on or had its flashers or hazard signs on.
Yep, it definitely had the flashers on. I believe it was running, but I'm not entirely sure.
How do you enter this residence?
When I walked up, you can see the garage doors are on the north side, and there was a walk-through door there that I assume just went to the garage, so I tried to the next door to the south that opened into the kitchen.
So you entered through a kitchen door?
Yeah, it opened to like a small landing, and then the kitchen was to the right when you stepped in.
What do you see once you enter this kitchen door?
There was a male that met me at the end of the kitchen. That he informed me his brother was dead, and then we walked through the rest of the house to where Ryan was.
Okay, so you see someone who you identify as a male,
Yes.
and he tells you that his brother is dead.
Yes.
Do you see this male? Is he dressed? What's his condition?
He's sitting upright in a recliner.
before you go to the dead party, the guy who tells you that his brother is dead, can you describe him briefly?
He's white male. He's wearing like pajama style pants. He was shirtless.
Did you later identify who this was?
Yeah, I recognized him as Aaron Cooper.
So you knew Aaron Cooper?
Yeah, through his time in the Traer Fire Department.
Okay. So Aaron Cooper was a firefighter?
Yes.
So when you talk to Aaron Cooper, he tells you his brother is dead. What do you do next? As I entered the kitchen, I could hear a female screaming from the other end of the house, and that ended up being the living room where Ryan was, and she was laying on top of him in the chair. So the female screaming was laying on top of someone on the chair?
Yes.
Tell us more what you see. Give the jury an understanding of who she's laying on top of.
She was laying on top of Ryan. When she got up off him, I could see that she was covered in blood. I tried asking her what was going on. She was just screaming that she needed an ambulance. And then I had Ryan remove her from the room so I could actually see what was going on.
So did you mean to say Aaron?
Or yeah, sorry, Aaron.
Okay. So you see the female, she is sitting on top of Ryan Cooper.
Correct.
Does Ryan Cooper appear to be dead or alive?
Yes, he appeared to be deceased.
And you talked about observing this female. You said she was covered in blood.
Yes.
Did you identify who this female was?
It was Karina Cooper.
That person that you saw covered in blood sitting on top of Ryan Cooper, who you identified as Karina Cooper, is that person in this courtroom today?
She is.
Can you identify that person by an item of her clothing where she's sitting?
Yep, she's sitting on the defense side with a gray sweater on with a black undershirt.
Your Honor, we'll ask that the record reflect identification.
The record so reflects.
She was sitting, what you've said, she was sitting on Ryan Cooper. Was she laying on him? Can you describe what you're seeing?
She was just kind of laying against him. She was sitting on his lap. She had her face against his chest, and she was just kind of curled up there, I guess, laying on her side.
Rubbing her face in him at that point?
Correct.
As you make these observations, do you observe that there are also children in this house or in this room?
Yes, there were 3 children in the house. As we left the kitchen and walked towards the living room, there's a bedroom on the right, and there was at least 2 of them that were standing in the doorway there. And then as I walked past, they followed us out.
Were you able to identify these children?
They were the children of Ryan and Karina.
Do you know their names? Were you able to find their names at some point?
I did. I don't recall what they are because in my reports, everything's by their initial.
Fair enough to say this is a very chaotic scene as you find it at that time?
Yes.
And is it fair to say because she is still crying and wailing?
Yeah, it was hard to get any information from anybody with her in there screaming.
Does she tell you anything? What happened? Does she tell you what's going on?
If I recall, all she said was she was just wondering where the ambulance was and they needed help.
What was Aaron Cooper able to tell you?
After Aaron took her out of the room.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Judge, I believe presence, impression, and excited utterances will cover that at that point.
Counsel on approach. So, Mr. Hawbaker, my understanding is that the objection is withdrawn. Is that correct?
That's fine, Your Honor, yes.
All right.
Do you remember the question?
You're asking the information I got from Aaron?
Yeah.
So after Aaron took Karina outside, he came back in and he had told me he had gotten a series of calls from Karina just a few minutes before I was dispatched that there was someone in the house, that Ryan had been shot, but he said it was mostly just screaming as well.
So the information that he received from Karina was mostly screaming and that there was someone in the house.
Correct.
Now, let's talk then about, at that time, what are your duties? Are you trying to determine what had just occurred?
Yes.
So what do you do next?
I began looking at Ryan, trying to determine if it was something medical related, if it could have been gunshots, basically trying to determine what actually happened.
So let's talk about your observations then at that point. Karina, the defendant has left, you've taken her out of Ryan. Did that take some time to just even get her off Ryan?
Yeah, just a few seconds.
Okay. Do you make an observation of Ryan Cooper?
Yep, I saw injuries to the left side of his face, in front of his ear on like the cheekbone. There's indentation, and then in front of that there was 2 small holes, and then there's blood.
So you see a lot of blood.
Yes.
Do you see blood also on the floor?
Yeah, there's a large pool of blood on it'd be his left side of the recliner. There's blood all over the front of his shirt, coming out of his nose, his ears.
Let's talk about that. Was there something about the blood that appeared of note to you?
In the large pool to the left of the chair, I noticed that there was swipes taken out of it, like someone could have stepped in it or slid in it, and then it appeared that it was coagulating.
Can you tell the jury what that word coagulating would mean to you?
Coagulating is clotting.
Like clotting?
Yes.
As an officer, as a deputy, you've worked in cases, as you've told the jury, that where you respond to accidents or scenes of violence where there is blood, correct?
Correct.
So based on that experience, you can tell blood that appears to be clotting.
Yes.
Did you observe what is referred to as blood spatter in that living room?
Yes, on it'd be the east wall of the living room, there's blood splatter on that wall, on the door, and then the wall behind the recliner, there was blood splatter as well.
Now, you talked about what appeared to be signs of movement or disturbance of the blood by something like a swipe on the blood.
Correct.
At that point, are you concerned that there might be a firearm in the scene that you need to either secure or find?
Yes.
Do you see any firearm around Ryan Cooper at that time?
No.
Was that something you're looking for?
Yes.
Do you find a firearm at the scene?
Yes.
Or in the house?
Yep. Initially, I found being a 9mm Smith Wesson shield. It was sitting on, I don't remember if it was like a buffet type table or just an end table in the hallway between where the bedroom and the bathroom is.
And when you find this Smith & Wesson 9mm, what do you do with it?
I cleared it and left it sit where it was. It was photographed, and then later it was placed in my patrol car.
Did the weapon that you found have any ammunitions in its?
Yes, there was 1 in the chamber, there was 6 in the magazine, and the magazine held 7.
Were you able to determine who this weapon belonged to?
I later found out it belonged to Aaron.
So that time you don't know, but you later find out that it belonged to Aaron Cooper?
Correct.
And did you find out that he brought with him based on the phone call that he'd received?
Correct.
Were there other firearms found in the house?
Deputy Foster and I found one later. It was in a bedroom safe.
Can you tell us what firearm we found at the bedroom safe?
It was an LC-380.
Okay, and those are the type of the firearm?
Yep, that's the model of the firearm. I believe it's a Ruger.
A Ruger handgun?
Yes.
Okay. Did you find out who this firearm belonged to?
That was Karina claimed that one.
Okay. So Karina told you or told you that in a bedroom the 380 would be a firearm that belonged to her.
She told Deputy Foster that there was a firearm in the safe.
Was there any other firearm that you found?
No.
Was there a firearm found in Ryan's truck, or was that a different officer who found that?
That was found later on in the day with a search warrant, I believe.
Okay. So later on in the day, you do find a firearm in Ryan Cooper's truck?
I don't believe I found it, but I know there was one found there.
Okay. Back to the recliner where Ryan Cooper lies dead. Did you search around, or did one of the officers search around to see if there was a firearm?
If there's what?
If there was a firearm.
Yes.
Was there any firearm found on the recliner or around Ryan Cooper?
No.
As you're making your observations in the house and where Ryan Cooper has been shot dead, do you see any observations of bullet holes or any signs of broken entry around that part?
No.
You talked about the children in this house, correct?
Yes.
At some point, and you talked about them being present in this place with this excitement and what had just happened, correct?
Correct.
In fact, when you're talking to the children, they have to be shepherded out of the living room where their dad lies dead and to a different room, correct?
Correct. When I saw that 2 had followed us into the room, I asked them to go back into the bedroom and shut the door. And
do you remember what they were trying to tell their mother as she's screaming?
say that again?
Do you remember what they were trying to tell their mother as she's screaming?
Sustained.
Tell the jury the demeanor of these children. In other words, did they appear upset, trying to console their mother?
Yeah, I believe it was the oldest one. I think was crying, and I know was talking to somebody, but I don't know who it was or what he was telling them.
And if I told you the oldest one's name is Cade, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Did you talk to Cade and ask him what happened?
Yeah, after Aaron removed him from the house, they were sitting in Aaron's truck, and I talked to him then.
What did he tell you?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
May I respond?
You may.
Excited utterance, present sense impression.
You want to approach? Objection is overruled.
Sir, do you want me to repeat the question or you recall the question?
Nope, I recall it. Kate informed me that he was sleeping upstairs at the time of the incident. He remembers hearing footsteps and a thud, but couldn't recall if there was an actual gunshot that he heard or not.
Did he tell you that his sleeping arrangements had been changed days prior to the killing of Ryan Cooper?
That's sustained.
Did he tell you what he did as he ran downstairs and what happened in regards to when he saw his dad?
Overruled.
He said he went over to where his dad was and he slipped in the blood.
So he told you that he slipped in his dad's blood?
Correct.
As you're walking the scene, you talked about another deputy coming. Did that deputy arrive as you're there at the scene?
Yeah, I believe he arrived 4 minutes after I was on scene.
And just to remind the jury, what was the name of that deputy?
Deputy Travis Foster.
Talked about Ryan Cooper dead on a recliner. Can you give the jury an orientation? Was there a door close to him where his recliner was?
Yeah, there's a door just to the left of where the chair was.
Okay. A living room door?
Yes,
Did that door appear closed to you when you looked at it?
it was closed.
That door was closed.
Correct.
So the recliner door is just very close to the living room door, and that door was closed when you got there.
Correct.
Let's talk about some actions that you took when you have other officers and other people responding to help Ryan Cooper. Do you collect phones at the scene?
I did.
What phones did you collect?
I collected Karina's phone and Ryan's phone.
Okay, so you collected the defendant's phone and Ryan Cooper's phone.
Correct.
When you found the defendant's phone, was there something of note that you observed with the phone?
It was sitting on the right arm of the recliner. When I picked it up, there was messages coming through that popped up on the home screen. There are people offering their condolences.
So by the time you're picking the phone has messages of condolences.
Correct.
When you are looking at the phone, do you notice whether it's flashlight up on the flashlight is on the phone?
The flash, did I just hear an echo or did someone object? Something weird popped up. Nothing? Okay. The phone was down, so the flashlight was against the chair and the flashlight was on.
So it appeared that someone had turned the flashlight on.
Correct.
Fair enough to say the room that you're in was a fairly darker living room?
Yes, it was dark.
And you said it kept chiming with messages of condolences.
Correct.
Now, did you take any photographs at the scene?
I did.
Mr. Kodiak, before we get to these, I think we're going to take a recess. So we're going to take, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 10:46 on my watch. That clock's a little fast, but we're going to take a 15-minute recess. I would remind you of the admonition that I gave you yesterday, and we'll have you back and we'll get started in about approximately 15 minutes.